Really nice to see everybody. Welcome. I'll just do a short introductory chant. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham namham sangham namasami. I'm going to do the normal thing, which I really think or know could save an awful lot of confusion in the practice. Now, I'm really basing this on anicca, dukkha, anatta. If everything is changing from moment to moment, nothing is permanent. Not only in the outside world, but in our interior world, the world we create in our minds, everything is changing. There's nothing that we can actually hang on to in spite of our great efforts to prevent change, to hold on to everything, hold on to the things we like or we're attached to, get rid of the things we don't like. This goes so deeply, you know, it's obvious that the mountains will erode, things will change, societies will change, but the world, the samsaric world we create, that's something that needs to be seen, needs to be known. Not in an intellectual way, but really known, really seen clearly. Seeing dukkha, suffering. You know, it's a funny word, suffering, dukkha. I'm really not sure of the translation to suffering, dis-ease. Again, that goes so deeply. Because we are trying to make everything permanent, to try and get away from things unconsciously. Well, we're doing it because we've always done it, because of society encourages us to do it. Not to be in circumstances we don't like, although we're in them, we're stuck in them. To cling on to things, to get new things to make me happy. And this causes us a deep down sort of dissonance, mental dissonance. It's sort of tearing at us psychologically. Getting to see that, getting to know that suffering. But as I say, my favorite Indian saying is pain is compulsory, but suffering from pain is optional. Suffering is compulsory, but suffering from suffering is optional. It's about what we add on top of our suffering. You know, we're sentient beings. We're subject to all sorts of external things. Our bodies, you know, it's aging, it aches, it does all sorts of things. There's got to be suffering. We've got to hurt if we trip, if we fall, if we whatever on this physical body, because it's very sensitive. But do we have to add on to that suffering? So anatta, you know, I mean, people, what is this? No self. What is this? How can there be no self? Really look, when I suggest through the guided meditation, which I do, as you know, I do this every week, the same old boring thing, the same old sweeping meditation. not for the sake of the meditation, but for why we are doing it. Looking why. And the why is to find that place that isn't suffering, which is there all the time. But we look, we attach, again, attachment, we attach to the techniques and forget about the reason we're doing these things. So in that place of pure presence, in the pure presence of this moment, nothing to do with the moment, it's to see how the mind, how the heart mind is in the present moment. Can anybody, and I really would like somebody to tell me, can anybody find a self at that time of pure presence, of pure awareness, of pure consciousness? Can anybody find a self, a separate self? Can anybody find a gender, man or woman, in that place of pure awareness? There is just awareness. And my encouragement is to truly get to know that, not through analysis, not through working it out, but just get to know it. Have these questions, say, can I find a self? But not being asked intellectually, but placing the question just there. And when, do not answer that question. It will answer itself when the conditions are right, when you are present and aware with pure consciousness. Pure consciousness is a bit misleading, just consciousness. The question will answer itself. And as I say, please tell me, anyone, if they can find a self in that moment. And of course, the temptation is to think, well, I have to go to work. I have to look after the children or whatever. How can I be in this place? This is the reason for this practice. To get to know that place, to get to trust it, to see that we do not need to control the world. We can live in the world. We do not need to control it. And we can function smoothly without adding to all the suffering. We can relate to things. We can see things without projecting our ideas of what things are like, what they should be like, or what they shouldn't be like. We can just see in pure presence, pure clarity. I don't know why I'm using pure so much. It's not a good, it causes slight speculation, I think. There is just awareness. Just get to know that consciousness. Bare attention. All these Buddhist names, they all come down to the same thing. Be in the samadhi of the moment. Learning to get to know that. Learning to bring it into the Eightfold Path, using that brilliant teaching. As I've said before, we cannot do the Eightfold Path. I cannot have right view. I cannot have right speech. I cannot not have right action, right whatever, because it's got to be wrong if it comes from the self. But if it comes from that place of knowing, of consciousness, it will be free of that self. There'll be a spontaneous responding to the situation. Not in me being spontaneous, but in just a natural way of responding to the situation, or whatever. So hopefully, over these weeks, people are truly looking. I mean, I keep saying this is really simple, this practice. And it is, because all we have to do is to remember to come back and be aware. But our conditioning, so-called Mara or samsara, the world we create, is very strong. So we need to really persevere at this. We really want to know, but not in this academic, intellectual way, but in the true knowing, Standing aside. Again, we can't stand aside, but once there is presence, once there is mindfulness, true mindfulness, there is an automatic standing aside. There is no self in that moment. So getting to know this, practicing with it. Okay, so we'll do the normal guided sweeping meditation. I really would want to, as usual, encourage any questions at all. Because, it's, as I say, it's easy. This practice is very easy. But, I've been through it. I've been through it for many, many years. I wish somebody had encouraged me the way I'm encouraging you. But there again, different people take to different things. People hear different things. So if there's any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. It's good for everybody to hear that. It's also good for me because I've only got a limited things to say, because that's what I see we need to do. So I don't want to start branching out into this and that, because it's not going to help from what I'm saying. Okay, so sitting in a reasonably comfortable and aware posture. So a posture that is an aid, it's a help to stay aware, to remember to come back to the present moment, to see when the mind is carrying us away again, which is not a problem. Do not make a problem of this. It's what the mind does. It's divisive. That's what it does. But we need to get to know the other side, say the intuitive side of the so-called psyche, or whatever you want to call it. So we can learn to trust it again, instead of just trusting our views and opinions, our conditioning, etc. So in that position of awareness, maybe you're sitting on a cushion, on a mat, on a chair, on a sofa, or lying in bed. Mindfulness practice, true mindfulness practice, is in the 4 positions. That's in the standing, walking, sitting, and lying down. They're all equal opportunities to be aware, and all postures, situations in between, are all opportunities to be aware, to remember, to see that place that is prior to the thinking mind. So becoming aware of the top of the head, Becoming aware of the back of the head and the sides of the head. As I said before, don't project. If you cannot sense a particular part, that's fine. But you can see how the mind stops in that moment. And it's the important thing. Get to know that. Becoming aware of the ears. Becoming aware of the jaw, the cheeks, and the chin. Just noticing how it is when there is awareness. When there is awareness, the mind stops. It is just awareness. Becoming aware of the forehead and the eyebrows. The eyelashes and the eyelids. Being aware of the nose, the nostrils. The lips, the tongue, and in the mouth. Just noticing, just being aware, not commenting, not judging, just as it is. Becoming aware of the neck, all around the neck and the throat. Now bring into your awareness the whole of the neck, the whole of the face and the head. the sides, the top, the back, and the ears. How is it when there is just awareness? So becoming aware of the shoulders, letting that awareness spread down from the shoulders, down the upper arms, down to the elbows, the back, the sides, and the front of the arms. And becoming aware of the forearms from the elbows down to the wrists. And the awareness spreading down from the wrists along the back of the hands, the sides of the hands, the thumb, the knuckles, the joints of the fingers, the fingernails, the tips of the fingers. And now becoming aware of the palm of the hands, the palms, the thumbs, the joints of the fingers, and the tips of the fingers. Noticing if there's any energy flowing between the hands. Not to make, if there is, not to make a thing of it, just to be aware of it. And most importantly, just to be aware of how the heart mind is when there is presence. So bring into your consciousness, your awareness, your hands, the arms, the shoulders, the neck, the face, and the whole of the head. Now becoming aware of the back, from the shoulders down the back, through the shoulder blades, the sides of the trunk, down the spine, the small of the back, the arch of the back, the coccyx, the buttocks, and the hips. Now bring it into your awareness, the whole of your back, your shoulders, your hands, your arms, your neck, your face, and the head. Noticing, how is it when we are aware? How is the mind? How is the heart mind in that very moment? So letting that awareness spread down from the shoulders, down the chest, through the lungs, the sides of the trunk, the diaphragm, the stomach, the solar plexus, the navel, just below the navel, the hara, the intestines, the groin and the hips. Now bringing the whole of the trunk of your body, the front and the back, the hands, the arms, the shoulders, the neck, the face and the head into your awareness, into your consciousness, or just being conscious of it. Nothing to do, nothing to alter, nothing to become, nothing to get rid of. Just knowing that place of no thing. That is at peace, that is absolutely aware, It's not dumb or stupid. When the mind wanders, just gently come back. So allowing that awareness to spread down from the hips, down the legs to the knees, the top of the legs, the sides of the legs, the back of the legs. And becoming aware of the lower legs from the knees down to the ankles. And become aware of the top of the feet, from the ankles down the top of the feet, the sides of the feet, the toes, the tips of the toes, and the toenails. And becoming aware of from the Achilles tendons, the heels, the sole of the feet, the arch of the feet, the ball of the feet, the joints of the toes, and the tips of the toes. Now become aware of the full body, from the tips of the toes to the top of the head. noticing, getting to know that place of just awareness, just consciousness. Becoming aware of the breathing, just the simple, quiet, natural breathing, not focusing on any part of the breath, just breathing naturally. Presence is presence. Becoming aware of the natural sounds, maybe with the sound of silence, that internal sound. Noticing if there are sounds coming in from the outside, we don't have to attach to them. We can just naturally be aware of them. And they stop, they go. We don't need to cling on to it or identify it. So I'll ring the bell in a couple of seconds. As I normally say, do not think in terms of the meditation period ending. Ideally, it never ends. I know it's an ideal, but it's something that we can aspire to remembering every moment that we can, just to come back, just to be present. Nothing special. No beating yourself up if we forget. There is only now. There only ever was now. And the only ever will be now. So that's the only time to practice. So does anybody have any questions at all? Any comments, criticisms, witticisms, or whatever?
Please unmute yourself if you do. Ajahn. Ajahn, your mic on your cable there isn't working again. Send me a chat, mate, and I'll read it out. No, it's not working, unfortunately. Send me a chat. Send me a chat, and I'll read it out, Ajahn. Okay. Do you want me to make a guess at what you're saying?
Can you lip read?
Yeah, just a little bit. Tell me more about this dukkha stuff.
It's a shame he has this constant problem with the mic.
Maybe he can't hear me. Can he hear you? Ask him to unmute or
Can,
disconnect.
Ajahn, can you hear me? You can. Okay. Yeah, we just can't hear you. It says you're muted.
Arden, I'll tell you what we should do. Next time, I'll let you in early so we can test your mic. But what you can do is disconnect the white cable from the bottom of your phone, reconnect it. Now that may make it live. So will you do that? Okay, no, it didn't do it. Okay, does anyone else have a question?
It would be nice if you do have some, because I really don't know if what I'm doing, what I'm attempting to encourage you here, is actually so-called working, if it's bearing fruit. You know, if it's I think Jude's got the message.
You need to unmute yourself, Jude.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, this isn't really a question, but I do think it's bearing fruit, and I really want to thank you for the teachings over the last few months, because, the initial feeling of self-consciousness or reluctance or difficulties have given way to a sort of spaciousness feeling, and then to really quite great joy at times, and often in the most unexpected moments, not actually when you think you're most focused and most concentrated. It's almost like something creeps up and surprises you, and that I find really very, very nice indeed. But the couple of things that I suppose struck me as interesting that I've been thinking about is there appears to be quite a lot of energy released by this, that I don't know if it's literally giving your mind a rest through this practice, but it's I normally this time of year I hibernate a bit with the short days and I feel myself until the light changes after the solstice very much wanting to curl up and in the afternoons when it's dark. But this year I don't feel like that. I actually feel much more energetic and much more open to things happening. So there's the energy thing in terms of re-energizing oneself, but also the business about time, that instead of constantly feeling anxious about I've got to do this and I've got to do that and I've got to find time for this and I'm pressed for time, that actually time has taken on a different perspective since doing this practice. Definitely taken on a different perspective. So I feel I can relax in a conversation and not be thinking I've got to go and do this or I haven't finished that.
Yeah.
And it's a very lovely gift that I feel you've helped us. I'm speaking personally here, and I hope others feel the same. You've helped us to experience.
Yeah, it's nice to hear, and I think that the fact that we're less trying to, we're not trying to control the world so much, as in becoming, getting away from, etc. It must allow us to have more energy, because we spend an awful lot of energy in the worrying, in the planning, in the, the criticizing, in the moaning, etc. So it seems to me quite natural that we would have that extra energy for just being. It's nothing special. It's just, it's isness. It just is the beingness. And, it's for me, I think this is such a worthwhile approach to the practice. I know I've said all this before, but I've seen so many people get lost in so-called the practice, so-called all the techniques, me being mindful, which is not possible, me doing this, me taking on, basically just exchanging belief values. Instead of letting go of our beliefs, our views and opinions, we just exchange them for another set. But seeing before that, seeing prior to taking on all this stuff, we can truly let go. And excuse me, I think it's important. Most of you have been at this meeting. I don't know how long it's been going now. I don't even know when it started. I know it's been a while now. It doesn't really matter. But, the more we become at home in the present moment, the more we can trust our intuition, the more we can trust letting go of trying to hold on to everything, trying to change the world, or, I'm lacking in this way, or I wish I could get over this or that. The more we can trust in this moment, then we can start to, especially if we formally meditate. I'm really keen that meditation is whenever we remember. But when we get a quiet time to sit down, place the question, not intellectually, can I find a self? Or change? Investigate these things. But as I keep saying, not from an intellectual place, but in a natural knowing place, not coming up with the answers intellectually. They will answer themselves when there's a clear seeing into those problems, when there's a clear seeing that, can I find a self? Is it me talking? I can't find anybody talking. There is talking, but it's not from a self. I can give you views and opinions from a self. I think this should be like that. The COVID should be dealt with this way, or the Brexit should or shouldn't be. I can give you that stuff. But if I'm truly aware, and that's just feeling my backside on the cushion here, or my hands, or whatever, if I'm truly aware, there is nobody there. And I think that there can be a really big, deep insight there, but also a true release. A true release from, I keep saying the same things, I know, but, from us trying to control, denying change, denying suffering, denying that there must be a self. How could we function if there were no self? you know, well, it's the Chinese saying of host and guest. The host is that knows, is that, I use the word intuitive, satipanya, sati sampajanya. Being there, that's the host. Now, everything else is the guest. What's going on around us? It could be mayhem, but if we're at home with the host, these things happen. We don't have to download it. We don't have to try and get rid of it. It's happening. It's out of our control anyway. And most of the stuff is out of our control, but we refused to believe that. We want to change it. You know, something's happening now that I don't like. Well, the fact is, it's happening now. But the fact that I'm not willing to accept that, I just want to get away from that, is the problem. It's putting petrol on the fire. So getting to see life, see the world from a different perspective, from a perspective of no self. I mean, it's not like, oh, there's no self here, because there's just consciousness, there's just awareness. And that can be so liberating, so functional. We can really respond to the world. We don't have to react to everything. We respond, and it's much more likely that we'll respond in the correct way. And if things don't work out, then we're not going to make a meal of it and suffer for the next whatever period until the next crisis comes along. Things come and go. We learn through being present, through being aware of the way it is. It's like this. This is the way it is. Things change. There's getting used to not trying to control the world. So obviously, I mean, it makes a tremendous difference in our lives.
I think it also makes, if I can just say another thing, a tremendous difference in other people's lives. Because what I've also noticed is if you like putting yourself aside a bit more, or, you know, that starting to happen, that your intuition does kick in, and there's a lot more, strangely, paradoxically, you're more connected with other people. You're more attuned to them, even during this really weird lockdown period. I don't know if other people have experienced this, that they're actually sensing other people's needs, almost reading situations more fully. So I think the strength of intuition is not to be underestimated.
Absolutely. Yeah. And just that, you know, you've been coming here for a few weeks now to this meeting. Really notice that when you're in a group or you're talking to somebody and it's not going particularly well, there's a bit of hostility there, or whatever, you're in a situation you don't like, just be present and see the effect is immediate, not only on ourselves, but on the others. If you look, suddenly they've got nothing to bounce on, to fire back. It disempowers their stuff as well, and it comes over in a very evident. You know, this is a bit of a side issue here. Back in the 70s, I was hitchhiking in New Zealand on the west coast, and got a lift, and this guy said, "Oh, we're getting towards Greymouth, and they're the friendliest people in the world. Yeah, oh, they're so friendly. You watch." And we got to the side of Greymouth, and he started waving at everybody. So everybody started waving at him. You know, it was him. It was him. And this is on a superficial level, but if we are at home with ourselves, people will respond differently to us. It's natural.
Ajahn, Amita's just chatted a question.
Mm.
And when the body's scanned, I notice tense areas. However, when awareness is resting on those unpleasant areas, it seems like a changing, presumably a lifting, but comes back again. Could you please advise? Thank you very much. Did you get that?
Yeah, I mean, yes, thank you. Yeah. I mean, yeah, absolutely. When we're aware of those things. But I would really suggest, and we need to be careful here, that because there's a tension, say it's in my shoulder, for instance, there's a tension there. Now, if my awareness goes there, it ceases, and then the mind kicks in often and says, it's ceasing. So there's an element of me coming back in and wanting it not to come back. So just to know it, just to see it, not to try and get rid of it. You cannot make deals in the Dhamma, because who's trying to make the deal? Just to notice that tension, just to be present, and many times it will just cease. But the moment we come in again, we've lost it, so to speak. So that's the art is just to be with it, not just to. Okay, my knees have always been uncomfortable sitting. Now, my question would be, this is not a verbal question, an intellectual question. It's a knowing question. What is that feeling? Is it mine? Is it real? And as long as I don't try and answer those questions, trying to get rid of it, it will generally, to a great extent, cease the suffering, because normally only 20% of physical pain is real. The other 80% is what we project onto it or want to get rid of it. So yes, to know it and be careful, just to know it, just to be with it, even move. And this is why I keep encouraging, instead of sticking to one object of meditation, say with the breath, following the breath through the nostrils, the throat, the chest, whatever. No, I'm suggesting that we shift. We don't go to any specific. We shift. We notice how the mind quietens in that moment. I find it personally more skillful to do it that way, because you can carry on for years and years and years meditating on the breath, following the breath through every moment, scanning the body even, without realizing why we're scanning the body. And as I keep saying, it's to notice how the mind, how the heart mind is when there is just consciousness, just awareness. And it is at peace. It is in harmony. It is aware. If only we were to believe it. So that's why we have to prove it to ourselves in respect of getting used to it, getting to trust it. And then why on earth would we want to live in this deluded samsaric, neurotic mind state of worrying, etc., all the things we go through. Why would we want to do that? But we need to experience the so-called other side, And that other side is completely natural, completely normal. And that, in a sense, is the slight difficulty, because we tend to look for something special. Oh, when I become a good meditator, when I'm really aware every moment, then life will be bliss. You know, oh, I won't have a care in the world. All those silly people out there, they can, you know, this is all about being normal. Nothing extra, nothing special.
Yes, Ajahn. Ajahn, if you have a quick question, please, and then Kathy. Ajahn, do you want to ask? Sorry, mate, you still haven't fixed it. Oh, you've muted yourself. Okay. Kathy.
Yeah, hi. When you say just awareness, I mean, we are aware of something always, aren't we? I know in certain schools of Buddhism, there's awareness of awareness, and I've always found that rather difficult to say. But there is, there's awareness of because when you talk the thing through, when you talk through the meditation of the body sweep, we're aware of the head or the hands or the feet or the whatever. So there's always an awareness of a sensation or a sound or whatever, the five senses. So maybe this is a semantic thing. Maybe it's just the thing about words and use of words. I don't know, but so that's one little area that I need clearing up. But the other thing is, I as you were talking just now, Ajahn, I was sort of musing a bit on my experience of this meditation, in particular this body sweep meditation, and the question of who am I, of who is me, and am I there, and do I exist, and all that. And it seemed to me that, and I'm not very good at this, I have to say, I haven't had much luck. That's not the right word, is it? Anyway, no, that doesn't matter really, but it feels as though I'm filling in the me in a way. So I might be aware of my hands, or as I'm speaking now, my voice and my movement of my mouth. And I'm sort of filling in a me, if you see what I mean, in a vague sort of way. It's a very vague thing, but it's very subtle, isn't it? And there's a sort of ongoing sense of me. And what we're doing, I suppose, is to drop that, isn't it? Maybe that we're dropping that if we can. But then you've got to see it to drop it. Haven't you? You've got to somehow be aware of that filling in the me in order to let it go. Yeah. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And what I'm encouraging is by using this particular thing, I'm encouraging, because I don't particularly know any other way to do it in this type of group. If we become aware of the hands, so to speak, there is just awareness of the hands. Now, that's not the important thing. The important thing, okay, look, I say be aware of the fingernails. Can you be aware of your fingernails? No. But what happens to your mind when I suggest being aware of the fingernails? You've got two choices. One is to project some sort of picture onto your fingernails, or the mind stops.
Mm.
Now, that stopping is the important thing.
So maybe we should. Sorry.
No, carry on. Say what you're going to say.
Well, I mean, that's okay with the fingernails, because you can't be aware of them. You can't feel them. Well, anyway. But if you're being aware of your hands, that's different, because your hands, particularly in your mouth and your face, because they've got lots of lots of nerves, haven't they? So you're very aware of these parts. I don't know.
You're not so you're not mustn't concentrate. You're not concentrating on your nose, on your mouth. There's just an awareness around that without putting a picture. You know, if I say to you, as I started off, you know, when there is presence, can you see a self? Can you see a separate self? Can you see a woman or a gender?
Is that a question?
Yeah.
No, not really. No.
No.
I mean, gender particularly doesn't resonate much.
No.
Not at all, actually.
It's the same for self.
Hmm.
Nobody has ever come back and said, oh, I can find a self. Because if you look in that way, there is no self. It doesn't mean to say we've turned to a rock or a tree. So the important thing is, you know, you shift your attention to different parts of the body. Not if I say the cheeks, I'm not interested in the cheeks. I'm just shifting my attention, and there's nothing there. I'm not interested in the cheeks or the nose. I'm interested in the awareness of when I shift my attention, that there is nothing, the mind stops. So don't project onto the hands. You can only you have to think about the hands if you're giving them a picture, so to speak.
Well, you can be aware of the hands touching, like at the moment, I'm touching the back of the cushion. I mean,
yeah.
And I can be aware of that feeling, let's say, that sensation.
Just the sensation.
Without bringing to mind any kind of visual image of hands or cushions or anything.
Okay, that's great. Just the sensation.
And that's what we're talking about, isn't it?
Yeah.
But that was really interesting, what you just said. I don't think anybody has said that, and I don't think I've read it. I probably haven't forgotten, but the shifting of the focus of attention, that's really interesting. So it's, yeah, sorry.
I find that so much more useful over the years than I've spent years. Like I've been doing this for, I don't know, 48, 49 years or whatever it is. And I've gone with the breath. I've gone with this. I've tried that.
Yeah.
But when I started to shift the attention, which allowed me to see that place that is at peace, that place of no self, then things really started to take on a life, to show me the path, so to speak. Because the rest was all me doing it. See,
I'll work with the shifting. The shifting is good.
Yeah. You started off by saying there's always awareness. Well, unfortunately,
of something. Something. I mean, not just awareness.
Yeah. But you must remember that, you know, mindfulness is the path to the deathless, and heedlessness is the path to death. We spend a lot of our time in dreams in the head, and that's not awareness.
No.
So it's more about becoming aware constantly, as constantly as possible, which means whenever we remember, we come back. Whenever we remember, we come back. We just come back, as I say. There is only ever now. There only ever will be now, and there only ever was now. So why make a fuss of, I've forgotten to be aware for the last week? Because it's only now. Now's the time. Now's the time. And we get used to that. I hope that helps.
That is. I know, that's great. Thank you very much.
Cheers, Ajahn. Linda sends saying she has no question, but thanks very much because it's really helped today. Annette, were you going to ask a question?
I wanted to say good evening to everybody.
Hi there.
And listening to you, I think my experience really is that my meditations can help to change my habitual behavior and thought patterns. And that included in that, of course, is attachment to self and self-centered mind. And one of the ways I've found very helpful in my life, and something that Jude alluded to, was that replacing concern for self with concern for others is a great way through, because somehow you're able to let go of that sense of self. If you can develop that sense of concern for others, somehow that concern for self recedes to some extent. Obviously, I get aches and pains and or preoccupations like everybody else, but through the meditation, which, like yourself, I've been doing on and off for a number of years, and different types of meditation, I found that there is that some clarity can come through, but in effect, there's less of a struggle. There's always struggle, but there's less of a struggle, and a letting go of that concern with self when one has some concern for others, which we all have, of course. So that, you know, that's nothing new. So I think I'm listening very carefully to what you're saying and to what everybody else is saying, and I agree with everything. But I'm saying and the meditations we do together, I find very, very helpful. But essentially, to make that change with the mind, that it's changing those habitual thought patterns, isn't it? Of trying to get through those and kind of out of the other side in some way that's clearer. And I get in a mess just like everybody else does. You know, it's not constant, but somehow if I can work with that, it helps, because I think through meditation, you can, you know, this is without sounding too prissy, you can help others, but you've got to get through that kind of preoccupation with the mind and the habitual thoughts.
Yeah. No, absolutely, you can help others. But I mean, also because I'm so boringly stuck to the one way. Yeah. Okay. So if your path is easy for you as an upaya, a skillful means to look in terms of helping others instead of trying to solve your own stuff, so to speak, but notice. You still need to notice how your heart mind is in that moment, whether you're with your hands, your feet, or helping us. It's all in the present moment. But don't waste it. Don't just become a medic or somebody, you know, and ignoring yourself, because it starts at home. This practice starts at home. So if that's the way you want to use it, by helping others, great. But look to see how that is affecting your heart, your mind. It's the same as being present. It's all about presence. So doing it from a place of presence, not from a place of, I know what's best for them, I know this and that, but coming from that place of equanimity, that place of true refuge.
Yeah, thank you for that. I've written down here, try and develop some equanimity. And I like your choice of the word medic, because I spent most of my working life as a nurse. So I think I've got that habitual thought there all the time. Thank you.
Okay, there's no more questions by the look of it. Emily, give that dog of yours a nice pat.
Yeah.
Little class job. I was on a Zoom yesterday or the day before, and our cat just bombarded, locking the screen, everything. But that's showbiz. Okay.
Yeah.
You want to wrap it up then, Ajahn?
Yeah, okay, great. It's really nice to see everybody. And
I was
usual,
asking if you got anything else to say. Sorry.
Well, other than wishing everybody to do the most simple thing in their life, which is to remember. That's all you need to do. Just remember to come back, to be aware, and stay out of it.
Yeah, it's not worth the candle.
No, exactly. Yeah. All right. Great to see everybody, and hopefully see you again next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Stay safe. Wear your mask.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay.
Okay.